My name is Alina Adams. I was born in Odesa, USSR. I wrote 2 books set in the Soviet Union. My daughter was born in America. I'm going to tell her about the Soviet experience through books. Okay, so over the last couple of weeks, we've had recipes, we've had children's books, we've had a journal. Now we're going back to sort of a little bit more mainstream. We're doing Two Big Differences by Ian Ross Singleton.
Oh my god, it looks like me.
Does it? Why does it look like you?
My hair looks like that.
Sometimes your hair does look like that.
And I have the colors. The pink, the blue, that's my hair color scheme right now.
Wow, I didn't even think about that. Look at that. So in this book, Two Big Differences by Ian Ross Singleton, there are 2 distinct types of characters. There is a character who was born in Odessa and then moved to the United States. And there is a character who is the child of someone who was born in Odessa, grew up in the United States, but always thought of themselves as belonging to Odessa. So you're making faces. So just based on the faces you're making, what are your feelings just about these characters I've described?
I don't think anyone could relate to these characters at all, actually.
Well, certainly no one in this room.
Yeah, certainly no one I know. Okay, this is off topic, but this reminds me of a conversation I was having with my dad about, because I was like, okay, do you consider your wife to be a New Yorker? And he was like, oh, I don't know, because he's very New York.
He's one of those people who he understands in theory that there might be places outside of New York, but why really test it? Remember they used to have those maps in the past that used to say there'd be dragons, and people were afraid that if they sailed too far, they'd fall off the edge of the earth. So I think he kind of feels that way about the Hudson River. He understands he can look at a map and he can name he knows all the capitals. He knows the capitals of all the states. But really, why test it?
So yeah, he's a very big New Yorker. And I was like, okay, is she a New Yorker? And he was like, no. But you've been here for what? 20, 30?
30, as of this December, it'll be 30 years.
30 years. And you're not a New Yorker, but like in my brain, you're a San Franciscanite.
Well, it's a San Franciscan, but see, here's the thing. I mean, it's interesting that you brought that up, and it ties in very well with the themes of Two Big Differences. I never felt like a San Franciscan. So I was born in Odessa. And then we moved to San Francisco when I was 7 years old. And I lived there until I was 24. Then I lived for a year in LA, but that's almost like sort of a blip on my personal radar. And then I moved to New York in the last week of 1994. And I've been here since then. I don't know. I don't feel like a New Yorker. I never felt like a San Franciscan. I think the strongest connection I still have is to Odessa, which is so interesting that you took this conversation down this path. As you can tell by our rambling, we have no plans when we sit down. So it's very interesting that you did this. If you were to ask me what city do I have the most connection with, I would say it's with Odessa, even though I haven't been there since 1988. The last time I was there is my mother and we went there in 1988. But my book, The Nesting Dolls, was actually set in Odessa. It was set in Odessa in the 1930s and Odessa in the 1970s because of the really strong connection that I have there. But so this brings me to my question to you. You have only heard about Odessa, but you've heard a lot, actually, quite a bit. Do you have any feelings or connections to Odessa?
Well, I like to preface this with I'm not very good at geography. I didn't realize Odessa was not a country until I think 2017. So I just want to put that out there.
She has many other wonderful qualities.
Yes, geography is not one of them. I don't really care what places are. I'm going to be so real with you.
You get on a plane, you assume the pilot knows where the place is.
Yes, that's their job. I'm not the pilot. I'm going to get us there. And let's be real, if the pilot's not there, we have bigger problems to try and find Odessa.
Good point.
Anyway. I just knew of this, it was a place. I didn't really, feel any big connection to it because, I've never been. It's not we talk about it a lot, but in my brain it was just childhood era. Not, modern day, you know what I'm saying?
Well, because one of the characters in Two Big Differences, he is the child of someone from Odessa, and he feels this really strong connection, and he actually ends up going back there and finding out that's not really his place either. I think a lot of it comes to do with people who don't feel like they belong anywhere. And, it's sort of like people who think, well, the reason I don't feel like I belong here is because I belong somewhere else. But I'm one of those, wherever you go, there you are. So you're still you. Now, you, on the other hand, are the kind of person that belongs anywhere. I mean, you walk in any place and you're fine. So you probably, if you went to Odessa within 10 minutes, everybody would be your friend. Now is not a good time to go to Odessa. But it's an interesting concept. But let me ask you this. Do you feel like a New Yorker? since we're talking about belonging in places.
Oh yeah, York and proud.
So but how does that feel? Let me put it this way. Since I never feel like I belong anywhere, let me ask you, what does it feel like to feel like you belong?
It's like this weird sense of superiority in a weird way. It's like,
Which works very well for Odessa too, but Odessa and New York have a lot in common. All right, so for people who might not be as self-confident as my very self-confident daughter, Two Big Differences by Ian Ross Singleton might speak to you in a way that I just strongly suspect it won't speak to you.